My name is Mohammad Ramadan. I am the owner and founder of Attorneys of Chicago. Of course, as the name says, based in Chicago.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Pleasure. Been waiting for this.
I'm excited. Now, we're going to talk about something that I would consider a little bit controversial. Just like a tiny bit.
Here we go.
But we're going to talk about starting your law firm straight out of law school.
Yes.
So that's what you did, right?
Correct.
Tell us about it.
So I came out in 2011. So 2008, the market crashed. The remnants of it were still kind of going on. So kind of in order to understand my decision, you kind of got to know my history. I first male to go to college in my family. I started off community college. I had like a 1.8 GPA and didn't really know what I was going to do. By just sheer luck, I got into DePaul. That's kind of where things changed. I met my mentors there. At that time, law school was still kind of like a pipe dream. It wasn't something that I really thought I was going to do seriously. I started doing really well at DePaul, and then it kind of became serious. So I worked my GPA up. I took the LSAT. I did just enough to get denied by all 8 law schools. All 8 denied me. Michigan State gave me a conditional acceptance and said, hey, if you come in early, you do well enough, we'll let you in. I said, it's my one shot. Took it, got in. I was bottom 20 in my class. I was never always great in school. But I looked at it and I said, I hustled my way to this point. I'm playing with house money. I don't belong here. I shouldn't really be here. I kind of beat the odds to get here. So, I was coming out. The legal market was crap. I was bottom 20 of my class. I didn't come out of a top 100 law school. I'm going to just be honest. My name is Mohammad Ramadan. I didn't have a family with connections. I really had nothing. And I looked at it and I said, I applied for jobs. I wasn't even getting interviews. So the writing was on the wall. All right? And I just kind of knew, okay, when I come out, what am I going to do? So about probably my 3rd year of law school, I just kind of knew, you know what? I'm just going to go on my own. And it was controversial when I met with whatever they call them, the people that you meet with at law school before you go. So the first thing she said, she's like, well, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going to Chicago. She's like, well, everybody wants to go to Chicago. I'm like, lady, I live there. My family's there. Like, I'm not going there because of because I want to. I have to. She's like, okay, well, what are you doing for jobs? I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go on my own. She's like, what? She's like, excuse me? I said, yeah. And we had a very, very back and forth. I'll just say that. And I kind of just told her, look, I'm not asking you guys for anything. Just stay out of my way. I'm not really asking for anything. They actually sent the dean to have dinner with me.
No, dinner.
And we sat down and she brought it up and I said, look, it's a crappy legal market. All due respect, you guys are not doing much to get us jobs, which is fine. Okay, I get it. It's tough for everybody. But what do you want me to do? Go sit and do doc review for $30 an hour and not learn anything? And I said, I hustled my way here. I'll figure out my way when I get out. And that's kind of what I told her. They still didn't like it, but whatever. I came out. I passed the bar the first time, November 14th. I'll never forget the date. I raised my hand. I got sworn in. December 1st, I signed my first lease.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I just dived right into it.
And who was your first client?
$50 traffic ticket. So how I started, I actually... when I passed the bar, we had a little party. So it was just close family and friends. I told all of them, do not give me a little BS monogrammed little folder. Just whatever you were going to spend on a gift, please give me the cash so I can open up the office. So I made, I think, a little less than $3,000. It was my security deposit. It was my rent. I bought a desk, a computer, some pens and notepads. And I had a few $100s left, and I went and bought a suit from one of those sales stores, and I would literally just get dressed in the morning, go to the courthouse, and walk around.
But you had no experience. Weren't you worried that was a liability?
Yeah, so what I did was the office I took was a joint office. There was 4 other lawyers there, relatively younger, but they had some experience.
Did they think you were nuts?
No, because they kind of did a similar thing.
Okay.
And I didn't just dive into it. I kind of not so much did my homework, but I tried to build as much of a safety net as possible. And these guys were kind of my safety net. Now, some of them were only out for like 3 years at the time. So it's not like they were experts, but it was enough to know how to file an appearance, how to research, or, basic stuff. And it was kind of like a co-op almost. It was really cool. It was like, all right, if I learned something, hey man, I went from the judge so-and-so, I won on this motion. Oh, let me get that case, or let me get the motion that you used. And it was really like a co-op for a couple of years. We just kind of helped each other out.
How did you find them?
I knew them from before. One of them was a good friend of mine. So he helped me out. He was about 2-3 years ahead of me. So he was kind of advising me how to get into law school, the LSAT. Again, I didn't come from an area that had doctors and lawyers. I mean, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I never knew a lawyer personally. I had no concept of the LSAT. I had no concept of college. I'll give you a funny example. When I got to DePaul, I didn't know 100 level, 200, 300 level. When you apply for classes, that 300 level is like the hardest. So I'm looking at the list and I'm like, I don't know any of these classes. And I saw Mideast Politics it was like 300 level. I'm like, oh, that's my people. I should know this stuff, right? I didn't know 300 level was like the highest level class, and I just totally bombed that class. Just to show you, I didn't even know how to apply for college. So he kind of helped me with that, and I explained to him what I was doing. He's like, hey, we're getting this office space, and there's extra space. And I knew the guy that kind of rented the place out. So I said, you know what? It's better than nothing at this point.
And then what happened next?
So the first 6 months to a year, I would do traffic tickets, $50. I would try to get 100. Some would still negotiate me at 50. I'll never forget that. And then what I would do and how I really kind of grew was I would do covers. So covers is basically, I started off doing criminal defense. So criminal defense attorneys will tell you sometimes you have to be in 3 different courthouses, 4 different courthouses, all at the same time in the morning. So they would say, hey, Mo, we'll pay you $100. Go to this courthouse, get us a court date. Or go to this courthouse, pick up discovery, and get a court date. So I would do that for multiple attorneys, and at the time I was doing it to make that extra $100, $200, and it was literally like, okay, today I made $200, cool. Gas is covered for the week. I can get some food. All right, next one I got to pay my rent. It was literally day by day I would try to do it, and the covers really helped me. One, I started to network with other attorneys. Two, you start to learn on someone else's, not dime, but I can't really screw it up, right? And if I screwed it up, the lawyer I'm covering for will fix it, and they can always just blame the new attorney. So the pressure wasn't as much. I got to know judges through that. They started to recognize me and see me there. I started to get to know and have a relationship with prosecutors. And also I would go cover, and then I would just pick up other clients when I'm there covering for another attorney. And I learned very fast the 5-second rule, which is what I call the 5-second rule. You have 5 seconds to impress a client before they decide they want you or not. Your handshake, your business card, and how you're dressed and how you looked. You knock those 3 out in 5 seconds, you'll get someone to hire you. And that's what I did. I would just put on a really nice suit. I spent a lot of money on nice business cards because I hate saying fake the funk, but I had to have a nice business card to make it look like I'm experienced and I have this firm. So I spent on business cards. I bought a couple suits, and I would just make sure I'm shaved and cleaned. And whether people like to admit it or not, that stuff does matter. And I learned,
absolutely. I love fashion, so I'm going to agree with you.
Me too. And case in point, I had a guy, my first felony, it was a low-level felony. I signed him up and I asked him, I said, hey man, why did you hire me? He's like, man, I'm going to be honest with you. You were the best dressed dude in that courthouse and looked like you know what you were talking about. I said, deal. I'll take it. And that's when I learned that stuff does matter. And I would just, literally, I would do that. I would call my sister in court and act like she's a client. And I would just walk around acting like I'm talking to clients on the phone. I would just go into different courtrooms, act like I'm looking for clients. And sure enough, people, hey, I got a question for you. Hey, can you help me out real quick? Or, and then I learned how to take people's bond money. So if they didn't have cash, I'd say, okay, cool. You got $300 in bond, slide that bond over to me, and, I'll take care of it for you. And just little by little, just kind of built it up from there.
Are you still doing criminal defense?
No, I stopped criminal defense 5-6 years ago, maybe.
Tell me about your first PI client. Wait, before we even get into that, how many active cases do you have now?
A couple hundred, I want to say.
So from no one will hire you to couple hundred active PI cases.
PI cases. So I did criminal defense hardcore for about 5 years. And when I say hardcore, I mean guns, drugs, attempted murder. So my trial experience came from the criminal side.
Did you handle sex crimes or no?
No.
I knew you were going to say no.
So look, when you do criminal defense, you cannot get on a moral high horse, right? I would listen to someone on a sex case. A child case, I would not even give a consult to.
See, I knew it. I feel like I already know you.
And the reason is, I don't think I would have been able to give them my 100% defense. And if I can't give you my I'm very passionate on my clients. So I told myself, it's not fair if you're not going to give them your 100% because they might be innocent. So if they are innocent, they deserve 100% from an attorney. They're not going to get 100% from me. So therefore, don't even come to my office. I mean, I would say it nicer. With children, it was just something, even if you were innocent, I just couldn't do it. That was the only thing I wouldn't take. I mean, you name it, we did it.
And when did you switch? What happened? Did you get like one PI case and you're like, holy shit, there's money here?
No, so that's a good question. It was pretty organic over a span of time. So I was doing criminal defense hardcore. I really thought I wanted to be the next Arab Johnny Cochran. Like, he was my idol growing up. I really thought that's what I was going to be. Of course, it didn't work out that way. I think it was when I had my first daughter. I had my office in the city, and I was getting to a point, and anybody that litigates knows this feeling. You're so tired all day from prepping for court or being in court. By the time I came home, I didn't have much for her. And I said before I even got married, before I even became a lawyer, I never wanted to be that dad. That was a big thing for me personally. No matter what work I did not want to be that dad. And when I mean that dad, is that dad that's working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, only sees their kids a few hours out the week. I said, I don't care how much money you can promise me. I'm not giving this up for that. And I said, cool, right now it's okay, but when I'm 55 and I'm 60, do I want to be dragging myself into court for misdemeanors and felonies? And the answer was no. And the system sucks. It wore me out. I got tired of fighting the system. It's very racist. It's very biased. I got, prosecutors are very self-righteous people. They live on a high horse, and it just really got on my nerves. And then, it's draining. I would spend a year and a half defending a guy. I'll never forget it. I defended a guy in attempted murder. We got him off. Great. It was one of the big wins of my career. Not even a month later, he calls me, caught another murder.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, dude, what did I do all this for? Like, I lost sleep over your case. I blood, sweat, and tears into this. And it was just like, do I really want to do this? And then I did a double homicide. I really liked the kid. It was a 17-year-old kid. And it just started to pile up. And I said, hold up. And then I started really doing well on the business side, which what happened was Chicago is a very regulated city. So I ended up just somehow, some way, I started representing businesses that were getting attacked by the city of Chicago.
Interesting.
It's right. And I said, wait, I get the chance to fight Chicago and give them the finger? Sign me up. Let's go. So they tried to railroad one of my friends. At first, I'm like, no, I'm this big badass criminal defense attorney. We don't do admin law. And he just kept calm. He's like, Mo, please. I said, okay. And I looked at it, and it was like, they're really crushing this guy for no reason. So I ended up fighting it, and I won. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's pretty cool. And then my phone just started ringing for that, from all these businesses getting ambushed by Chicago. So that started to do well. And I said, okay, I want to get rid of criminal, but I need to supplement it with something. And PI kind of came in the picture then. That's where PI really kind of came in. I started noticing how many cases I was referring to other attorneys. And I started to think, hold up, I'm pretty good at this marketing thing. I bring in cases.
How do you bring in cases?
Old school guerrilla marketing. And when I say that, I'm in the streets, I network. I've done a great job of what I call planting seeds. And what I mean by planting seeds is doing stuff for people without asking for anything in return. If I seen people that I know opening up their own business, I would go to their grand opening. Sometimes I would be the one of 3 or 4 people. And guess who they're going to remember?
Oh, you.
One of the 3 or 4 people at their grand opening. And I realized just making human connections.
Do you think that'll ever go away?
No, never. That's just a human nature. It's like technology these days is just giving you different vehicles to do that. So when people say, well, you do well on social media, how do you? I'm like, it's hand in hand. The networking works with the social media, and the social media allows you to network. So you kind of have to use both of them. And I used both. So I got into social media because I was broke. Literally, I had no money to market. It was like year 3. I said, man, dude, I need to do something like cool referrals are cool. And at that time, referrals were on and off. Right now referrals are flowing, but at the time, 3 years in, referrals were up and down. And I said, man, I have to do something. But I'm like, I'm broke. I don't have any money. I can't do a billboard. I can't do, any ads. So I literally just went on my personal Facebook page, and I would just tell stories about my criminal defense clients. And my friends laugh at me because I would make them totally dramatic, right? Like, oh, this poor woman came to my office and, she was going through all this, and we went into court and we smashed the prosecutor over her head and we got this verdict. And I kind of did it facetiously at first, just kind of joking, and people loved it. I said, hold on, I'm onto something here. And I just kept posting. I got a lot of crap for it. Lawyers still give me crap for it, the older attorneys, but back then a lot more.
What did they say?
Oh, I was a detriment to the legal world. I was unprofessional. I was ghetto. I've been told stop making rap videos and get back to work. I mean, I could go on and on. But the worst one was when they said I was a detriment to the legal world.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I thought that was pretty funny. And I did a video once. I'm from Chicago. Kanye West is very big. I did this video. It was like a hype video. It was just me. I rented a Uber Black, and I put on a nice suit, and I did the Kanye West power beat. And 3 days in, I had 60,000 views. And I said, holy shit, I'm onto something here. So I started doing these videos with music in the background, and people liked it. And I started noticing, well, this is brand building. And it really hit me when I would be somewhere and people were like, hey man, I saw your video. When are you going to do the next one? I was like, oh, I don't know.
Like random people on the street?
Random people that, from the community. And they would say, man, I love that video. When are you going to do it? When's the next one coming out? And in my head, I'm like, I didn't have one planned. But yeah, it's coming next month, man. Don't worry about it. Just be on the lookout for it. And I'm like, oh shit, I got to do another one. So it was just little things like that. But when I say guerrilla marketing, yeah, like anywhere I go, you're going to know I'm an attorney, whether you like it or not. Now, you can't be overt about it, right? I slip it in within conversation, or I'll try to tell a good client story of a result that we got. So you kind of have to be subtle and slick about it. But, for lack of better words, I kind of grew up on the streets, so I knew how to hustle, and I knew how to get what I wanted. I always knew what I was good at and what I was bad at.
What are you bad at?
I'm not a great writer. Speaking, I think I speak well, but I still have a little bit of the immigrant South Side kind of talk. So that was always self-conscious about kind of my speech. Those were the main. School I was never great at. Like, I'm not going to write a 30-page brief. I'm just not. That's just not who I am. What I am good at, though, is I moved around a lot as a kid. I've lived in every kind of neighborhood, every kind of community. So I feel one thing I was always good at is I can relate to pretty much anybody's situation due to the fact that I've literally lived poor, rich, black, white, you name it, I've lived around it. So I used that skill, and luckily for me, because we moved around a lot, I knew a lot of different people from different neighborhoods. So I knew Chicago politics, meaning in Chicago, neighborhoods have certain people. And those people are the credible people. So if, so-and-so says Mo is legit, the whole community is going to believe Mo is legit. So I would find those people in those communities, and if they were doing events, I would go to them, or I would sponsor them, and I would do stuff with them, and just built from that. And honestly, just doing good work. People will talk about you if you do good work. So it was just kind of a combination of things, but it was really just hardcore getting out in the streets and letting people know what you do.
How many employees do you have now?
So, not including myself, 3, 4, 5 right now. 5 and then myself. So six of us total, 5 staff.
And what's the plan?
In what sense?
Like, what are your goals?
My goals, sorry, Larry, but I want to be the guy in Chicago. I say that jokingly, but what I really want to do, honestly, I want to show the new model of a law firm. And I think the legal world is really changing, and I think the old guard is having a hard time with it. And I think the newer batch of lawyers are scared to leave the old guard and create.
So what's the old guard? Let's talk about that.
Could I be completely honest on this podcast?
I hope so.
Okay. The old guard, when I say that, is people do not care for the old white guy in front of a bookcase anymore. That was the prototypical lawyer for the past 100 years. I think women are kicking ass right now in the legal world, and they're doing it differently. I think women are the kind of resetting the standard. And the reason I use women is because I think they've broken not the glass, but they don't give a fuck no more, right? In a sense, if I want to wear a bikini on my Instagram, I'm going to wear one. If I want to be fashionable on my Instagram, that does not make me less of an attorney. If I want to be cool, or if I want to do certain events, I'm going to do that. And I think lawyers have forgotten that we represent people.
Absolutely.
You have to do what people want. It's not about you, bro. Okay? Like, lawyers need to get over this. It's not about you. You represent somebody. So people want to know who you are now. People do not go to your website first right away. What they do is they're going to see, who am I meeting? What kind of person are they? Do they go to concerts? What do they like to eat? What are their interests?
Well, people like to work with people
that they can relate to, right? And I think the legal world for a long time has been this kind of picture perfect image of a suit and tie, and you're perfect, and basically you're a machine. I've shown my vulnerabilities to people, and they love it because they can relate to it.
And women are good at that. I do think women are more vulnerable, and they have a lot of empathy.
They do.
And I think I agree with you. I think that's changing the space. And I think we have television to thank for this idea of a lawyer, right? Everybody has an idea of what a lawyer.
Perry Mason.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's Perry Mason, yeah.
Yeah, because of TV. And now because of social media, we've had so many lawyers come out and do all these videos and put themselves out there. And people are like, wait a minute, I thought that lawyers looked a certain way and acted a certain way. And it's funny you bring up the whole bikini thing, because I think her name is it Brittany? What's that?
Oh, Lawyer Britt. Love Lawyer Britt.
Okay, she did a post on this, how people were like, no one's going to take you seriously.
Yep.
Posting on your bikini.
Lawyer Britt's killing it.
And I was like, who has the time to care? Yeah. Like, to me, that's like the weirdest thing. It's like, why do you care that she posted? You're obviously just projecting.
Correct. And I guarantee you, with or without that bikini pic, that person was never going to hire Attorney Britt. That's my opinion. They were never going to hire her anyways. And she's killing it. I don't care. I'm a huge Lawyer Britt fan. And she's a great example. She's young. She has fun on her page. You know, she does cool videos. She shows her vacations, you know, all of that. And I think that's the new standard. And I think social media and opening up your own law practice has allowed women to flourish in our industry, where otherwise they would have to, quote unquote, wait their turn. That never came, right? I mean, go look at the number of women partners in big firms.
Oh,
they're crap. And you cannot tell me women lawyers aren't that good. I mean, go look at the law school numbers. Women outnumber men in law school numbers now.
I think women are better employees too. Like, I'm sorry, I just do. And
1,000%. My entire staff was almost all women.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't let me go on a tirade on that. I do think women are just they're loyal, they're organized, they're just hard workers. You know, and I don't know if it's this whole chip on their shoulders shit that people say. I don't know. But
who cares? Who cares? The point is, women are amazing employees. And they're
attorneys.
Smart. And, dude, of course.
Yeah. More than half my referral base are women-owned law firms.
And I love that that's growing.
It is.
Women should go start your law firm.
And I've asked women attorney friends that I know, they've told me they've noticed between the generations. So the older generation still talks down to them, still says certain words to them. The younger generation are more prone to being totally fine with working with a woman attorney. So I think it is shifting, but social media and programs to show you how to open up your own law practice, I think most lawyers should open up their own law practice. That's my belief. It's so liberating.
But I think some lawyers just don't want to handle the business side.
Because they suck at business.
Well, that's why. But
most lawyers suck at business.
And especially, I would argue, and I don't want to say that everyone is like this, but I think that there are lawyers that are so passionate about being lawyers that running a business almost feels like it's A, what they're not interested in, or B, it's like, almost like beneath them. It's like, no, I want to make a difference. And that's when I say, well, partner up with someone that's great on the business side.
I've heard that before, and here's my response to them. You can't make a difference if you're broke.
No, or if you have no clients.
If you have no clients, you're not making a difference, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, outsource it then. Like, it's a cheap cop-out when lawyers say that, because I respect the fact as a lawyer that you want to do good work and you want to fight the powers that be. I'm with you 100%. But there is a business to law, whether you like it or not. And client acquisition is a very difficult thing, as you know this very well. Client acquisition in 2022 is extremely difficult. And getting the client's one thing, then your operation side is completely different now. And in today's world, if you're not responding to clients right away, if you're not giving them different options to communicate with you, firms like myself and the newer firms are going to blow you out of the water, because we're responding to our calls. You can DM me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can text my office. You can email me, if WhatsApp if you want, whatever you want.
It's the number one complaint.
By far, without a doubt. And it's an easy fix.
It's so easy.
But I think lawyers' egos get in the way. That's my opinion.
You and I have talked a lot about lawyer egos.
Yes, because it's a detriment to our industry. I really do think it's a detriment to our industry, that those comments, right? You know, that's about the lawyer. I want to feel self-righteous. No, dude. Go bring in clients. That's how you make a difference. But this whole, it's not about the money. It is about the money, because you need that money to funnel the work that you want to do. So what I do is, yes, we're a money-making firm, but I do a lot of pro bono work, right? Making money has allowed me to free up time to go do the pro bono work that I really like and I enjoy. So it's like, build that firm up. So now for me, it's like I get to double dip. I get a firm that I've built how I want it, and I get to bring in people that I want to hire, and I get to use that brand and that money to funnel into projects that are pro bono for me. So that's the win-win. I live by the Jay-Z quote, you can't help the poor if you're one of them. So I decided to get rich and give back. That's the win-win, right? I really believe that.
You're the American dream.
I am. And I take pride in that. And I don't say that in an ego way. I say that to say the American dream is still alive. I just think people are lazy as fuck.
They are. That's the thing, that I think immigrants, we feel like we have something to prove.
We do.
And that drive, and I worry about my kids. I'm like, you guys have no adversity. And I've said this in other episodes, I'm like, should I create some adversity for them?
It's tough. I battle that all the time, right? Because I grew up poor. It was 8 of us in a 3-bedroom apartment, first generation immigrants. My kids will never see any of that. They have we have a nice house. They go to good schools, get every toy they want. Part of me is like, I don't know. I mean, I want to give them everything I have, but, how do I instill values in them? But I don't have to make them broke to instill values, do I? I don't know. It's a tough balance, because children of immigrants were raised differently. My parents didn't come to no basketball games and football games that I went to, and they didn't know any better.
We had no extracurricular.
I don't blame them. They didn't know any. They were, immigrants are in survival mode 24/7, and this is what I tell people. We are different in a sense, because the moment we get here to the moment we die, we are in survival mode. That's all we know. Survive, survive, survive. So while we're in survival mode, we forget about building generational wealth and all of this. But a guy recently said something that really hit me, and he said, hey, we're all going to be someone's ancestor one day. Make them proud now. And it really hit me that we are going to be someone's ancestors. Someone's going to say, my great-grandfather created this wealth for us. I want to be the great-grandfather. So we are going to be someone's ancestors one day. What are they going to say about you?
I mean, I keep telling my kids I'm not leaving you anything. I mean, it's a lie. But I hope that panics them a little bit. But my husband rolls his eyes, and I think they're onto my lie. But.
Yeah, it's tough. But, so what I do is I try to get them involved in things, and but it is a tough balance, especially when you grow up with nothing and you start to have something. You want to you don't want to give your kids the experience that you had, but same time, those experiences are made me the hustler that I am today, that built what I built today. My kids, can they go through that?
Isn't it weird though? It's like the things that were so difficult are now such a blessing.
I hated that. I didn't go to a school more than 3 years of my life.
Why did you guys move so much?
We're broke. And we just, apartment to apartment. We left the city to try to get away from a lot of the shit that was going on there, but couldn't really afford to live in a good neighborhood. So you would just try to find your way, and we just, just how immigrants do it. I mean, we kept moving to try to find a better place. And again, when I was a kid, I hated it because as soon as you get acclimated, boom, you get up and move. But I've literally lived in all Middle Eastern neighborhoods. I've lived in an all black neighborhood. I've lived in a Hispanic neighborhood. I lived with poor white. I'm talking poor white. I've lived around rich whites. I've lived around almost every socioeconomic class.
Where do you live now?
I am a full suburban. I golf now. My wife laughs and she's like, "You're like a middle-aged white guy now." I'm like,
you're a lawyer,
right? I've always wanted to golf. I never golfed, so I started golfing recently. I never fished in my life until a year ago.
I've never fished. I've never golfed.
I was dying. I
don't want to do either.
I grew up in a city. We didn't have nature and all that, and it was something I just always wanted to fish. It's weird as this sounds. I never went fishing. So my friend's a big fishing guy. We went on a charter, and I absolutely loved it. Like I really loved it. But would I loved it at 21? Probably not. Do I love it at 38? I loved it, and it's progress, right?
Not perfection.
Thank you. It's all about progress, and that's what I try to tell younger attorneys. They're such in a rush to just become the next Ben Crump or whoever it is, and I'm like, bro, Ben Crump's been practicing for 30 years now. You don't become, and I'm just using Ben Crump as an example because he's a recognized name, but people always ask me, especially younger lawyers, what do I got to do to start my own law firm? And I said,
start it.
If you're not ready to eat shit and know how to eat shit and keep moving, you're not ready.
But see, that's what your childhood taught you.
Correct.
And Ali and I have talked about this, like the lack of grit that people have and the laziness that does exist in our country. And it's a shame, I think. And I hope my children aren't lazy.
There is some of that, but I also think they're just trying to do things smarter now. And I think technology, you got to understand, we didn't have this technology growing up, right? No. So, we had to do something.
We were how old with MySpace?
I can say this publicly. I never had a MySpace account.
I had MySpace.
Don't ask me why. I was probably the only one in America that didn't have a MySpace account. I was never into tech like that. I didn't use Facebook till I got to college. But when I was on Facebook, it was literally just for college students. But that's when I saw
I didn't go to college, so I had to wait till they opened it up to everybody.
But that's when I really saw the power of social media. It was 10 years ago, 2008. I was in college, but that was when I was trying to get some notes because I missed class and I couldn't figure out how. My cousin's a big tech geek. He's like, man, go on this Facebook thing. I'm like, the hell's Facebook? He's like, just sign up. He helped me sign up. I put a message out. I forgot how they did it back then. Within an hour, I had 5 people respond to me with notes. I said, holy shit, dude. This is I didn't know it would get to what it is now, but I knew, I said, this is out of this world. Like, this is unreal. Like, this really happened. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm telling you, this is really cool, right? I'm like, yeah, like, what's this email thing about? Like, I was still new to it. And I laugh and I tell that story because now my entire practice was built on social media. I've done no traditional paid marketing, zero, zip, zilch.
Which is crazy because this seems to be a theme: networking and social media. And I keep hearing these two things. If you want to be successful, you're starting a law firm. You have to network and you have to do social.
A lot of the legal world still does not believe in social media, believe it or not.
It's crazy.
And it boggles my mind. I don't know if people know this. TikTok is now overtaken Google as the largest search engine in the world officially.
I think I heard this recently. That's crazy.
That's insane.
I don't TikTok.
So I don't personally TikTok. I've gotten better with it, but it's It's one of those things. It's a must. Whether you like it or not, it's the largest search engine in the world, and you have to get over certain things.
But what do people search for?
You're the guru on that. You tell me. I don't know.
It's really funny because the first time, there are 2 times that I felt old with technology. One was when my little cousin told me Facebook was for old people. The other
it's kind of true.
was when I tried to do a TikTok and I ended up messaging Tally Goody, and I was like, I don't know how to use TikTok. Can you please walk me through it?
You'll get used to it, but TikTok's its own animal, man. Like, I'm still learning it. I'm more of an Instagram guy.
I am too.
I like Instagram.
Instagram is my jam.
Me too. I think it's a great medium. Not a lot of haters. Like, TikTok commenters are the worst. Oh my God, the comments.
I don't have any haters. I'm not big enough for haters.
Trust me.
I'm sure I have real life haters.
Do a couple TikToks, Maria. You will see the comment. I'll never forget. So now I like play with them. I don't. It doesn't bother me. I've heard enough crap in my career where like these things don't bother me. But so I like to just kind of mess with them. But just to give you an example, I did a video on like I think 3 steps to do after an accident, something like that. And one of them was call the police. And these guys from like India and like Australia are like going off on me. Well, police don't come to an accident. I'm like, bro, I'm talking about Chicago. Like, I don't know what happens in India or Australia or, the UK. Like, they were so offended by it. And I just responded. I'm like, dude, I'm talking about the United States. Not even the United States. I'm talking about Chicago. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, I don't know what happens in India, but you got to learn to just roll with those punches. Like, just don't even respond to it. I do sometimes just to be an asshole and just kind of have fun with people. And I start to realize people like the smart ass response comments because they would go like it. So but you gotta have thick skin, man. If you don't have thick skin,
I have thick skin.
I know you do. I'm talking about other attorneys. I think attorneys care about their image a little too much. And
I think that's just like humans in nature. Like I see it in some of my kids. I won't say which one. And it just I'm just like, why do you care so much about what people think? I get that we all care to some extent.
Yeah, you have to.
Otherwise, you're not well. Right, but so you can cut that actually. So you have to, right? If you're a human, you're gonna care to some extent, but to the extent that it inhibits you, or I guess prohibits you from doing something like putting yourself out there, I don't get that. I
think too many lawyers are scared of not looking lawyerly. Whatever the hell that is, I hear that all the time. We just
agreed that that's changing.
It's completely changing, but there's in law schools taught you this, and then when you come out, the law firms taught you. Here's my controversial statement, and you can play this. Law schools are built for large firms only. They do not train attorneys to be attorneys, and they do not train attorneys to be small and medium-sized firms. They do not. They literally teach you to be a robot for the major firms. That's the first problem is law school. Law school has not changed since Abraham freaking Lincoln. Okay, it's the same test, the same method, literally since Abraham freaking Lincoln was taught as a lawyer.
Well, I've never had a lawyer ever say, I learned so much in law school. Every single lawyer says that they didn't learn really anything in law school.
I learned how to think. I had great mentors, so I was lucky in the sense, but my mentors taught me how to think like a lawyer, how to view things. But I mean, Maria, like you said, I came out, I didn't even know how to file an appearance in court. Come on, you tell me after 3 years of law school, I didn't even know how to file an appearance. Now when I look at it, it's the most simple task you can do as a lawyer in court. You literally, in Cook County, is how it is. You go up there, you grab the half sheet of paper, you write your name, your information, you give it to the clerk and hope she doesn't chew you out for walking up to her. That's it. I didn't know that. I didn't know how to file a motion.
It would be super cool if somebody, like a group of lawyers, said, you know what, we're going to start a law school and it's going to be different. Obviously, they have to.
The cartel won't let you. I'm sorry, the ABA. I meant the ABA. I call them the cartel. I'm sorry, the ABA is a cartel. Here's what pisses me off about the ABA. You have a bunch of lawyers who never ran a law firm trying to tell us how to run our law firms. It blows my mind. And I don't really care for the ABA, the ARDC, all of them. Lawyers are so scared of them. I tell them I don't really give a damn because I don't need some uppity tight guy who's never ran a law firm in some office in New York telling me what I can and can't do. You've never been in the field with us. And things change and evolve so fast now that your rule making is so behind. So to me, I'm going to advance. If you got a problem with it, we'll deal with it if you have a problem. That's how I deal with the ABA and ARDC. It's probably not the best advice for young attorneys, but there's so many issues with the legal world that they just do not want to address, and it's a detriment to younger attorneys. Maria, you know how many young law students or attorneys, young attorneys I speak to, and every single one of them at the end of it says, man, thank you for being honest with us. Nobody's honest with us. It blows my mind. So many of them say, man, there's people that's not honest. They don't say the things you just told us. It's like, why? Why are the lawyers sugarcoating this stuff for them? Let them know the hard stuff too. Like, yeah, it's great. We make money. Don't just tell them you make money and you got, all these things. Tell them the hard stuff. Tell them that you're going to have to eat crap. Tell them, how to deal with these things. And they sugarcoat it too much. And I think that's a problem.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. And then they go out to the real world and they're like, oh shit.
And they get crushed.
Is not what I expected. Like, no one's setting the right expectations. Now tell me, what is the biggest issue that you're working through at your firm right now? Scaling.
So we're growing very rapidly, which I'm really happy about. So I'm in the scale stage. I don't practice anymore. I'm full blown, just kind of building mode. And I'm trying to be cognizant of not scaling too fast. My intake's not where it needs to be. So subcategory would be intake. Okay?
Intake. Let's talk about intake.
Let's talk about intake.
I could do a podcast just on intake.
You could do an encyclopedia set on intakes. All right. I learned through people like you and others in the industry. I was about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I had some extra cash. I did well. And I said, you know what? I want to dump this into some marketing dollars, right? So I thought, okay, I have all this money. It's not a ton of money compared to others, but for me, it was a good chunk of money. So I hired a company to do like PPC, and I was doing these paid ads, and I was getting nothing. And I lost at least 50, 60 grand, okay, within a span of a couple months. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to my law firm, because it made me stop and say, hold on, dude, you don't know as much as you think you know. Go back to ground zero. And God bless YouTube and Google. I mean, you can find anything you want. So I literally spent months just on Google and YouTube, just learning basics. What is PPC? What is this campaign? What does this do? And then I started to attend a conference, and I would watch other attorneys and people like yourself in the industry. And I realized my number one issue was intake. I don't care how much you can bring in on lead gen. If your intake is not converting it, what do you have? Sorry, I just screwed that up, huh?
No, you're
okay.
fine. And
you have nothing.
It's funny because everyone tells me their intake is great. You're probably one of the only people that right away were like, yeah, no, my intake's not great. Everyone's always like, oh, I have the best intake. Every single, that's not an issue. Oh, no, well, our intake's great. Okay, well, when was the last time you listened to a call? What do you mean listen to a call? Well, don't you record your calls? No, why would I do that? To listen to your great intake. Oh, no, but, Billy or Annie, they've been working forever. They know how to do this. And I'm like, but, just like, all right, okay. Conversation for another day, because it's crazy to me. That's the first impression. And if you're leaving anything on the table, I mean, you could have left a $40 million case on the table.
I still do the intakes till today. I'm in Vegas now. I did an intake this morning.
You can't scale that way.
It's not permanent though, right?
No, I know.
So I'm the type, and I learned this, before I take that responsibility to give it to someone else, I need to know it through and through.
Oh, totally.
So I'm working through my kinks and issues now. So that's why I'm doing it, so I can figure out where are we weak, or how many areas are we weak in, why are we weak in there, what do we need to do to change it. Okay, let me implement this. All right, is it flowing right? Once I feel that it's completely flowing and that they can do it, I have no problem relinquishing that duty. But until I set up my team for success, I have to handle it myself.
So what are you doing right now to make sure your intake is solid?
It's a good question. Me being knee deep in doing intakes, that's one. Just researching, honestly, right now. This is why I'm not in a rush to do a lot of other things because I'm still learning intake. Intake is very intricate. There's a lot of moving parts to it. And I really want to, I hate to use the word perfect it because intake's always going to change. As society changes, your intake should change. That's how I view it. While things change, your intake will always have to change. So I don't think you're ever going to have a one stop, one way of doing intakes. So I kind of want to build a base and then be able to kind of maneuver. But I am a little worried of giving it to a non-attorney, and I'm having a hard time getting over that. And I know the very successful firms have taking intake out of the attorney's hands.
Yep, intake specialists.
Yes.
Delegation. You got to do it.
I don't mind the delegation. There's just certain parts to it that I need to figure out.
You could
how
have
to
an
do.
attorney do it. It doesn't have to be a non-attorney.
Well, let me flip the question to you because you're the intake expert.
I am not the intake expert.
My concern is when they have legal questions, how
You
is...
transfer them to an attorney.
Okay.
I mean, there are so many ways to do it, and I am going to have someone on the podcast that is an expert when
Okay.
it comes to intake. So make sure to check that out.
Well, let me know when that comes because intake is my number one priority right now. I've built my operations side. My team is amazing. I cannot speak highly enough of them. They're just amazing, super loyal, hard workers. They believe in the team, which I've done a good job of building the team concept in the sense you don't work for me. We all work for the office. And the office works for clients. And if you keep your focus on the clients and their satisfaction, everything else falls into place. Because then they're referring, you're making money, your office staff gets raises, they get bonuses. You know, it trickles down.
You're getting reviews.
Yes. We've been stressing that now more, getting the review. I don't know if it was you or someone else I heard. It was a really good tip. They said, ask for the review as they're picking up their settlement check.
That was probably me.
Yes.
But I'm not the only one that says that.
So I stress that to my team now. Hey, so-and-so's picking up their check.
Just make sure they do it from their phone.
From their phone. Yes,
Their phone.
correct.
Okay.
We definitely do that. We have them pull up their phone. And so I'm learning those little things, right? To me, I've learned intake is about minor things. There's no big thing to do on intake.
Empathy, I'd argue.
Language matters. Like in my office, I don't use the word employees. We're not the only time the word employees is used in my office is for payroll tax. We're staff, we're team, and believe it or not, as corny as this sounds, that's helped because we've bought into the team and they understand. I don't look at them as inferior to me. You know, the other day, for example, I have a friend of mine. She has a case, so she just texted me for an update. I gave her the wrong update because I just looked at the screen wrong or something, and she's like, Mo, stick to negotiating. Let your staff handle this. And I'm like, you're right. You know, this is I know my lane. Call, you know, so and so, and she'll tell you everything you need to know. And
I feel you.
it was a great moment for me because I'm like, you know, I finally delegated. I'm comfortable delegating.
And they're doing a better job than you.
Great job.
Look
I
at
mean, it was an amazing feeling from where I started to now to be able to have my team do better than me. That was a proud moment for me. Yeah, that was a very proud moment.
And what's next for you guys?
It's a good question. You know, I'm beefing up our social media. That's our biggest thing.
You've been doing great.
Yeah, we're gonna do better. You know, you can always do better. But I'm going back old school. I'm gonna do a lot of street networking and doing events and doing pop-ups. I think that stuff really works. And sticking to just that old school stuff. Like, I don't care for traditional marketing right now. Maybe down the road, you know, we'll pop up some billboards, but I think billboards are more of a brand building thing. But again, why spend all that on billboards? You know what I can get with that same amount of money on Facebook ads? It's the same concept to me. So building up my social is kind of the biggest one. And I want to kind of build up our previous clients and do more for them. I think getting them in, doing nice dinners, and those things really go a long way because if someone refers you to my office, they're locked and loaded. I don't really have to sell myself anymore.
It's like when you mentioned there are different types of intake. Well, if it's a referral, that's a very different intake than
Correct.
someone just found
Cold
you.
calling you. Correct. Yeah. So I do a lot. I do a lot of community work. So I'm big on that. So I kind of want to do a lot more with that. So now that I've kind of freed myself a little bit, I do want to do a little more on the I can never say the word, but
I can't say it either. This is the immigrants. This is the second language. Can you say it? Yeah, 3 immigrants in a room. Nobody can say philanthropy.
You guys know what we're talking about. But I really love that stuff. I really do. And I think every lawyer should give back on a certain level. And I think we don't, as a legal industry, do enough to give to those that really need. And I'm not talking about the guy that calls you and wants a discount. I'm talking about the disenfranchised, the voiceless, the ones that really need it. I think lawyers should be the ones fighting a lot of these things that are going on. And I think, we should be that. And I think we should give back more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Yes.
Thank you.